Shalom. Maya helped me last time for Aliyah last Sunday. Do you remember that, Maya? That's very nice. I don't think for the whole service, but maybe one or two songs. Do you want to do that? Do you want to help us with the first one? Shalom. How about this? The first song, Shalom Aleichem, you can help us. And then would be okay for you to sit down after that? Amaya helped me at Aliyah last week. Yes. Oh, she conducted away and all that. So. And I'm a conductor. So that's but don't frame it. All right. I think that's a good spot right there. Okay? And I worry about this. Watch. So be aware of my guitar and make sure that I'm going to try not to hit you, but be aware of it too, okay? I don't tend to do that, but just in case. Okay? We'll figure it out.
I think we're there. You ready?
Sure.
Okay. You ready?
Because I want to. Also, we're on, which is nice.
Yep.
But my children are downstairs.
Oh, okay. All right. Well. Shabbat shalom, everyone. It's so nice to see us all, and what a beautiful day it was, and a beautiful service. We have a special cantorial soloist. Maya's going to help us with Shalom Aleichem on page 5.
Yes, and Amaya helped me last Sunday with Aliyah School when we were working on some songs, and she likes to help. And I hope you can help, too. Page 5. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaShabbat, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei ברכוני לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון. מי מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. צאתכם לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון. מי מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Thank you, Maya. That was wonderful. We are going to turn to page 11 now. Lefuna Ranana, come, let us sing. And Amaya demonstrated that. Cantor already invited everyone here, so please join in. We've got the Hebrew, we've got the transliteration in red letters, and no lip syncing allowed tonight unless you choose to.
It's a red letter day. He looked at me as if I had said something wise, knowing I had not. Please join us. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Naria, naria l'tzuri shenu, nekadma fana v'toda. Naria, naria l'tzuri shenu, bizmiro naria lo. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Lechu, 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 lechu neranena, lechu, lechu, lechu. נרננה, כי אל גדול אדוני, ומלך גדול על כל אלוהים, אשר בידו מחקרי ארץ, ותועפות ההרים לו. לכו, 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 לכו נרננה, או לכו, 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 לכו נרננה, אשר לא היה והוא עשהו, ויבש ידיו יצרו. בואו נשתחווה ונכרע, נברכה לפני אדוני עושנו. לכו, 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 לכו נרננה, לכו, 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 לכו נרננה, כי הוא אלוהינו, ואנחנו אמר איתו, וצור ידו, היום אם בקולו תשמעו. לכו, 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 לכו נרננה, לכו, 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 לכו נרננה, אל תקשו לבבכם כי מריבה, אם יום מסע במדבר, אשר ניסוני אבותיכם, וחנוני גם ראו פועלי. לכו, 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 לכו נרננה, או לכו, 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 לכו נרננה. 40 שנה כול בדור, ואמרם תועל לבבם, והם לא ידעו דרכי, אשר נשבעתי באפי, מבון אל מנוחתי.
On 21, we find Mizmor LeDavid, this again acclamation of God, but there's this line in there about how God shatters the cedars. And I know a lot of us are still dealing with trees in our yards, some of us in our homes, a whole variety. We've had a couple of big trees that fell down there. But what's amazing, right? A lot of us, we looked at that tree and you just felt horrible, right? And yet our ancestors, even at a moment like that, could just sort of see God's presence in the natural world. And I think that that's a wonderful lesson, right? Do you look at this, even a difficult moment, as a source of blessing or of God's presence, or only in a sort of negative light? And the psalm provides us a really interesting perspective on that. Page 21.
מזמור לדוד, אבו לאדוני בני אלים, אבו לאדוני כבוד ועוז, אבו לאדוני כבוד שמו ישתחוו לאדוני בהדרת קודש, כל אדוני על המים אל הכבוד ירים, אדוני על מים, מים רבים, כל אדוני בכוח, כל אדוני בהדר, כל אדוני שובר ארזים, וישבר אדוני את ארזי הלבנון, וירקידם כמו עגל לבנון, וסיריון כמו בן רמים, כל אדוני חותם להבות אש, כל אדוני יכיל מדבר, יכיל אדוני מדבר קדש, כל אדוני יכול לילות, ויחשוף יערות, ובחלום כולו אומר כבוד. אדוני למבול ישב, שם אדוני מלך לעולם, אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. איי 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 איי
For those of a certain age who remember vinyl records, you'd get a little catch in the groove, you know? Yeah.
Right. That's
all right, see, you can tell who's... On page 23, we're going to turn to Lecha Dodi. We do the first two stanzas, then turn to 25 for the last two. But I want us just to look at that first paragraph for a second, because it says here, Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad. And if you look at the English, it says, observe and remember were uttered as one. And you might read that and think, what the heck is this about? Would not be the first time in the prayer book, right? But everything has a meaning and a purpose. This week is Parshat Yitro. It's the 10 Commandments. And then later in Leviticus, we get a second rendition of the 10 Commandments. And in one of the 10 Commandments, we have the word Shamor et HaShabbat, observe the Shabbat. And in the other one, it says, remember the Shabbat. And so our exegetes looked at, well, wait a second, if these are 10 Commandments, shouldn't they have the exact same thing? Shouldn't every word be the same? And what they said in divine speech, God said at the same moment these two aspects. and that we have these two different versions of the Ten Commandments. And it's a profound reminder, though, that there are things we do to remember Shabbat, lighting candles, making kiddush, coming to services and praying. And then there are things that we observe sort of by refraining, by making it a day of rest. And each of these is an important aspect of Shabbat. And I imagine that most of the time we've just blown past this paragraph without sort of realizing its source. Page 23.
Kala bnei Shabbat nekavela lecha dodi likra kala bnei Shabbat nekavela shamor vezachor bediburecha lishmi'anu elam meyuchad Adonai echad ushemo echad leshem utiferet velitila lecha dodi Kala bnei Shabbat nekavela lecha dodi likra kala bnei Shabbat nekavela likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki mekor haberacha merosh mikedem nesucha sof maseh במחשבה תחילה לך דודי לקרא קלה בני Shabbat נקבלה לך דודי לקרא קלה בני Shabbat נקבלה. Page 25. ימין ושמאל תפרוצי ואת אדוני תריצי על יד איש בן פרצי ונשמחה ונגילה לך דודי לקראת כלה בני Shabbat נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה בני Shabbat נקבלה בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה גם בשמחה ובצולה תוך אמונה ים סגולה בואי חלה לך דודי לקראת כלה בני Shabbat נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה בני Shabbat נקבלה.
Please be seated. We turn to page 26, which is the traditional prayer of comfort that we offer people who are mourning, and particularly in the early days and period. Certainly I'm thinking about the family of Ruby Miller, who we laid to rest yesterday, and to you, Mitch, and your family on the passing of your mother, Helene Kogan, as well. We say, Hamakom Yenechem Etchem B'tok Sha'ar Avlei Tzion V'Yerushalayim. We do hope that you find comfort among all those who mourn in the strength of our community and connection, and with just what a classy lady that your mother was, and that all of that together helps you get through the difficult pangs of loss. So with that, we turn to page 27, and we'll continue with this next psalm.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת ולהודות לאדוני זמר שמך עליון לדבר סליחה לפרוח רשעים
כי הנה אביך אדוני כי הנה אביך יאבדו יפתו כל אבן
ימלאי מרעים תשמענה אוזניים.
Middle 28.
צדיק אתה מרעי יפרח כרס בלבנון יזכה ותולים בבית אדוני מחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו עול ינובון בשיבה דשנים ורעננים יהיו להגיד כי ישר אדוני צורי ולא עמלתה ועוד למלאכים לבש עדותיך נמנו מאוד לביתך נא בקודש אדוני לאורך ימים.
Thank you, Cantor, for that rousing Kabbalat Shabbat. Kabbalat Shabbat is, of course, the name for the Friday evening service, but it's also the name for that first section of the service. After the sermon, we move into Baruch Hu and the Mariv, so thus that name as well. You know how in a Portland summer, when it's all hot and clear, that we kind of begin to take the sun for granted, right? Not so much in the thick of winter, right? We definitely have 4 seasons, but every so often the rain and snow give way, and yesterday and then today, the skies suddenly open, flooding us with light instead of the icy rain and snow that shut our city down for a week. And what a relief that was. Indeed, one of the unique features of Portland that I discovered early on is how during the winter, people will just get up from their desks at work and disappear when the sun shines, basking in what will inevitably be a short but brilliant reprieve. A lot of us, though, do not have that sort of flexibility in our jobs, and thus it was with special gratitude to Ruby Miller, who I just mentioned, an older congregant who we laid to rest yesterday at Ahavai Shalom, beloved congregant. She was 93, and boy, did she pick a perfect day for her send-off. I always like to imagine that the newly dead get to choose the weather on their funeral. I know it's realistically ridiculous because you could have 2 funerals in a day and someone might like the rain, but whether it's snowing or raining hard or sunny, it just gives me a sense of solace to think that, that there's that type of connection. At the end of a funeral, it's traditional to chant the El Male prayer, the memorial prayer, and it features an unusual line in which we request that our loved one's soul be sheltered beneath God's wings. Now, Judaism has numerous embodied, personified images of God, but there ain't no single image of God as a bird or God with wings. And as a consequence, if you're paying attention, it's actually an arresting image because it is so out of character. And yet, as I left the cemetery, and I don't know if you saw this, Edward was there too, a lone eagle sort of cut across the sky, the blue sky, and its tail wings look like fingers almost behind it. Eagles are such fascinating birds, so much so that so many nations have chosen them as a national symbol. The ancient Romans, America, and our bald eagle, the golden eagle on the Mexican coat of arms, as well as the white eagle associated with Poland. Eagles have long been associated with strength, freedom, courage, even long life. Despite these positive associations, the Jewish people have never directly been associated with the eagle ourselves. When we're compared to a bird, as in the Song of Songs, Shir Shirim, God calls us my dove in the clefts of rocks, because we're supposed to be a gentle people, a people of peace, which the dove is a symbol of. So although our literature does not portray us as eagles, the eagle does have a role to play in our national story, especially as it appears in this week's Parsha of Yitro. one chapter before the scene of theophany in Mount Sinai, in which we'll receive the Aseret HaDibrot, the Ten Commandments, God speaks to Moses and says, "You've seen what I did to the Egyptians and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to me." And it's a beautiful image. If there are any fans of J.R.R. Tolkien, saw The Lord of the Rings, it conjures up that scene in which the Fellowship are literally rescued from burning trees by these ginormous eagles. Strangely, perhaps, there is apparently not a single Jewish commentator or even Midrash, which loves to go into the realm of fantasy, which construes this being carried out on wings literally. Although Chizkuni, a 13th century French exegete, views it as a metaphor of a different miraculous event in which God instantly transported the entire Israelite nation from Ramses to Sukkot. In other words, for Chizkuni, I can accept teleportation, but not riding on the back of eagle's wings. Instead, this phrase of being born on eagle's wings is viewed as an expression of God's loving protection. Rashi, an early French commentator, calls upon a midrashic tradition stating that Scripture uses this metaphor because other birds place their young between their feet. They're afraid because another bird might fly above them. But since no bird flies above the eagle, it only fears people who might shoot it with an arrow, and therefore it places its young upon the wings, saying, "Better the arrow should pierce me than my young." Right? In that image, the Israelites are children, while God is a loving, protective parent ready to take the blow to spare one's child. Even Ezra, a 12th century Spanish rabbi, expands on this concept, Rashi's comment, noting that an eagle flies higher in the air than any other bird, and all birds are afraid of it, while it fears no bird. There's another strange strain of commentary that takes a different slant on the metaphor of being carried on eagle's wings. The 5th century rabbi, philosopher, and mathematician, in case you needed to feel inferior today, Sforno states that on eagle's wings means a novel way that no one had gone through before, just like the eagle that takes care of its young in the height of the sky where there's no other type of bird. Apparently, he's referring to how God interceded in history to rescue us from our Egyptian bondage. The wings of an eagle here hearken to the notion of freedom that inspired so many nations to adopt it as their national symbol, while also emphasizing the unique nature of the Exodus. Eagle's wings remind us that things can change for the better, often in unexpected ways. So I hope you find each of these different interpretations inspiring, especially at a time when it seems that so many people are feeling grounded by their fears, unable to allow their hope, imagination, or courage to soar. The war, anti-Semitism, as well as all the other contemporary challenges that plague both Jew and non-Jew alike, have dampened the capacity of so many people to dream of a better tomorrow. And that's the thing about our fears, right? They weaken our sense of possibility, leaving us instead feeling anxious and troubled throughout our week. No one voluntarily chooses to feel this way. Sometimes we simply feel captured beneath the weight of our sorrows and our worries. And that's why we're fortunate to possess another insight from Rabbi Yosef ben Isaac Bechor Shor, who lived and bridged the 12th and 13th century of France. And he understands the verse, "I carried you all on the wings of eagles," to mean that God raised us to the greatest heights, extricating us from the depths of slavery. Clearly, having either the faith or experience of God's presence can give us the courage to overcome fear and despair. But what's so powerful about his image is that you don't need to believe in God's saving power to have the benefit of this insight. Rather, the Bechor Shor is reminding us to play the long game, to take the long view of history. In the depths of slavery, I'm certain that many an Israelite couldn't imagine a better future. Yet the generation of this week's Torah reading experienced both slavery and freedom. And once a nation has moved through and past such an experience, it begins to understand that not only did it survive an intense challenge in the past, but that it can do so again. The catch becomes, how do we apply this insight to our own lives so that this teaching doesn't remain just an intellectual exercise? When the Bechor Shor penned this notion, he was living in Orleans, France, and conditions of the Jews of France during this time regularly rose and fell, such as expulsions, legal discrimination, even a requirement to wear distinctive clothing that marked one as a Jew and therefore as inferior. All of those things were rife. Simultaneously, Orleans was an active center of advanced Jewish intellectual and cultural life. He and his readers would also have felt supported by this Jewish community. And while some trades in France at that time were restricted to the Jews, we were permitted to be active in financial markets such as proto-banking. They could make a living. In other words, because of their high level of Jewish education, as well as their shifting living conditions, his audience were largely individuals who emotionally could identify with the story of Egypt and of these eagle wings. It wasn't the past or history, something stale in a book. It was real. It was part of their lived experience. They viewed it as an essential aspect of their own autobiography. They sensed those eagle wings supporting them through their own trials and tribulations. Chances are that while average American Jews take pride in our history, we don't experience that history as an actual piece of our own autobiographies, nor are most of us as well versed in Jewish traditions as the Jews in Orleans, France were. What this means is that if we also want to soar like eagles, we need to dig into our personal autobiographies to recover the most difficult passages in our own life. And by doing so, we have the opportunity to uncover the courage, resilience, and determination that helped us weather our own Mitzrayim, our own Egypt of sorrow. Many times we forget to do this, yet when we do, we're able to experience how capable we each really are. This coming week, look up at the sky, watch the birds. If you have the chance, drive up to the Columbia River Gorge, particularly the Dalles, because right now it's eagle spotting season, and they are there in numbers. Each time as one flies by, recall all you've gone through that has made you the unique individual you are, and then remember that each of us truly is carried on the wings of a great, enduring, eternal love. Shabbat Shalom. So we'll turn to page 39 and rise for the Baruch Hu, the call to worship.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
Baruch Adonai Mevorach le'olam va'ed.
ברוך אדוני מבורך לעולם ועד.
Be seated.
ברוך את אדוני מלך העולם. מעביר יום מביא לילה, מבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאו שמו, אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו, לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, המעריב ערבים.
Speaking of that love upon which we are all born, we turn to page 40, Ahavat Olam.
אהבת עולם, בית ישראל, עמך אהבת. אהבת עולם, בית ישראל, עמך אהבת. תורה, תורה, תורה ומצוות משפטים אותנו. לימדת תורה, תורה, תורה ומצוות, חוקים, חוקים ומשפטים אותנו. לימדת, על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשובנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך, בחוקיך. תורה, תורה, תורה ומצוות, חוקים, חוקים ומשפטים אותנו. לימדת ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד, לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגע יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. תורה, תורה, תורה ומצוות, חוקים, חוקים ומשפטים אותנו. לימדת.
Thank you so much for bringing us that new melody. It's beautiful in its own right, and it is such wonderful preparation for the Shema on page 41.
ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל, שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד. ואהבת את עבדיך. והיה אם שמוע תשמור זאת הישר וחיים את זה. ויאמר אדוני אשר לא אדבר ניסו. אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Page 44.
ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה ומרים ובני ישראל, לכנו שירה בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה. מלכותך ראו בניך בוקע ים לפני משה, זה ליאנו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, לשלום, והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים, לחיים, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, 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 ותקננו בעצה טובה מלפניך, מלפניך, והושיענו למען שמך, והגן בעדנו, ויסר מעלינו אויב דבר וחרב, ורעב ויגון, השכיבנו לשלום, שלום, והסר שטן מלפנינו, לפנינו, לפנינו, ומאחרינו, אחרינו, 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 ובצל כנפיך תסתירנו, 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 כי אלה שומרנו, 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 ומצילנו אתה, כי אל מלך חנון ורחום אתה, השכיבנו, השכיבנו לשלום, שלום, ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ושלום מעתה ועד עולם, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ברוך אתה אדוני הפורס סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים.
And we'll rise on page 46 with one of those two words of observing of Shabbat, Vishamru. This is the observing, not the remembering on 46, Vishamru.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לאורם, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, יתגדל ויתקדש שמר רבה, ולמד יברא קילותה וימליך מלכותה, בחייכון וביום מכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. ישמר רבה מברך לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה תאמירן בעלמא ויאמרו amen.
Our private Amidah begins on page 47 to 52. Alternatively, you can look at the beautiful meditations in the prayer book or find your own inner inspiration. Gain of vote 53.
מגן אבות בדברו, מחיה מתים במאמרו, האל הקדוש שאין כמוהו. לילה 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 המניח לעמו ביום שבת קודשו, תקוום רצה להניח להם, לפניו נעבול מרב ופחד, ונודה לשמו בכל יום תמיד. לילה 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 מעונה ברכות אל ההודעות, אדון השלום מקדש השבת, וברך שביעי ומניח בקדושה, לעמד ושני עונג זכר למעשה בראשית. לילה לילה לילה
Kaddish Shalem closes out this part of the service. Cantor will chant that on page 54.
יתגדל ויקדש שמר רבה, ועל מה דיברה קירותי ונמיך מלכותי, בחיי חון ובמכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה וזמן קריב מרו, אמן. יהי שמר רבה מברך, לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ודרומה, מנסה ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי תקדושה בריחו, לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמה ומרו, אמן. תתקבל שפת ההון והתון לכל ישראל, קודם אבוהון דבשמיה מרו, אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו וכל ישראל מרו, אמן. עושה שלום ממרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו amen.
Let's rise for Kiddush, sanctification of the day, and I'd say wine, but it's probably grape juice. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzah banu, v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon inchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila lemikra kodesh, zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim, ki banu v'charta, v'yotanu kidashta,
mikol amim
v'shabbat kodshecha,
ve'ahava uvratzon
inchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-Shabbat.
Amen.
Amaya, if it's okay with your mom, would you like to have the grape juice?
Amaya. Oh, yeah.
It's a mitzvah because we just made the blessing over it, which means we have to enjoy it. Well, you better check and taste and see if it's still your favorite. It is? Okay.
Yeah, all right.
Because there's a lot of different types of grape juice, and they don't all taste the same. We are, in Israel, there's like as many varieties of grape juice as it feels like wine. You've got muscat, white, blush, all sorts.
Chianti.
Yes, exactly. Yes. We're going to remain standing for Aleinu on 56.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל עמונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שנות השמיים וסד הארץ. על כן נקבל אחד אדוני אלוהינו. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. I often bring a poem of some sort to help us as a kavanah and intention before the mourner's kaddish. And one of the challenges with it, first, it needs to be accessible on first hearing. And second, we all sort of have our own relationship and understanding both of death and what happens after death. And still we want that way in that speaks to all of us. I think this particular poem by Andrew Hughes addresses that concern rather directly, the hereafter. Some people, as they die, grow fierce, afraid. They see a bright light, offer frantic prayers, and try to climb them like Jacob's ladder up to heaven. Others, never wavering, inhabit heaven years before they die, so certain of their grace they can describe down to the gingerbread around the eaves the cottage God has saved for them. For hours they'll talk of how the willow will not weep. They'll talk of how they'll finally learn to play the flute and speak good French. Still others know they'll rot and their flesh turn to earth, which will become live oaks, spreading their leaves in August light. The green cathedral glow that shines through them will light grandchildren playing hide and seek inside the grove. My next-door neighbor says he's glad the buzzards will at last give wings to those of us who've envied swifts as they swoop, twist, and race through tight mosquito runs. And some, my brother's one, anticipate the grave as if it were a chair pulled up before a fire on a cold winter night. His ghost, he thinks, will slouch into the velvet cushion, a bourbon and branch water in its hand. I've even met a man who says the soul will come back in another skin, the way a renter moves from house to house. Myself, I'd like to come back as my father's hound, or something fast, a deer, a rust-red fox. For so long I have thought of us as nails God drives into the oak floor of this world. It's hard to imagine and comprehend the hammer turned to claw me out. I'm joking, mostly. I love the possibilities, not one or two, but all of them. So if I had to choose, pick only one and let the others go. My death would be less strange, less rich, less like a dizzying swig of fine rotgut. I roll the copper coils, the mockingbird that died from fumes and plunged, wings spread, into the mash. And underneath it all, just barely there, I find the scorched nut hint of corn that grew in fields I walked, flourished beneath the sun that warmed my skin, swaying in a changing wind that tousled, stung, caressed, and toppled me. The copper coils, the mockingbird that died from fumes and plunged, wings spread, into the marsh. Call to mind those who've passed in recent weeks, and offer our condolences to the families of Vern Beck, Roberta Mahler, Janet Menashe, Yosef Shahar, Bernie Winnicott, Joseph Schenkman, Ethel Birnbach, Selena Jacobson, as long as the recently dead Helene Kogan and Ruby Miller. On the back of the sheet, We have the list of those whose yard sites come, but I also want to allow anyone who is here saying yard site or observing in a period of mourning to stand as well and mention the name of the person for whom you will be reciting the Kaddish. All those then in a period of mourning. 58. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemer haba v'yalma divra kirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon v'yamechon v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael b'agala v'zman kari v'yamru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevarach leolam ulamei almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh V'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shmei dekudsha, brichu. Eila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiram bi'alma v'yimru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mamav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'yimru, amen. May the one who brings peace in the high places bring peace and comfort and support to all of us in our time of mourning. Thank you, Cantor. What a great service. A few announcements. There were some problems with Constant Contact, which is our email platform for larger blasts. So tomorrow, now that I'm sort of back full time, we'll resume after Shabbat services our meditation practice. Shabbat here about 12:35. We usually start about half an hour, 35 minutes after the service so people can get lunch downstairs. It's a nice, intimate group and a really wonderful way to sort of sink into Shabbat and enjoy the power of mindfulness to help us. We have the genius of Paul Simon. Now, I wasn't sure reading this are you the genius of Paul Simon, or is that something?
Paul Simon is the genius of Paul Simon.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure. Cantor does a number of wonderful lectures about music, and this will be a musical lecture on February 8th at 7 p.m. right here. So I hope that you'll come for that. You still have not heard his last album, I don't think,
no,
right?
You like that one.
It's 7 Psalms. It's sort of, he views it as probably the last music he'll do. Wow. And it's, so anyway, February 14th, 2 Fridays from now, is Pink Week. We're really going to focus on cancer awareness and support. So that, I think, is a really important Shabbat. Lots of kids' activities. CNS Youth Activities has a kids' night out for 2nd through 6th graders. That'll be on February 17th from 6 to 8:30 p.m. Wandering Jews, which is a program, you don't just need to be part of Wandering Jews. They're presenting a fantastic film called Golda, about Golda Meir, Israel's first female prime minister, a remarkable human being and woman, and it'll be a great film. Came out just this last year, 2023. So that's Wednesday, February 21 at 2 p.m. So if it's sunny out, you can leave work, apparently, and come over and watch the movie indoors. Nobody will know the difference. And then lots of other things happening, but a little bit further down the line. So
just want to say as well, but after following services, some of you know there's a dinner downstairs. It's by reservation. Those of you who have a reservation, please make your way down the stairs, the main stairs after. They say they're at maximum capacity. So we want to honor the reservation system. So there's that. But if you are registered, please join me afterwards. My family's already there, but hopefully there'll be some more food left over, and we're welcome to that right after services.
We will conclude with Yigdal on 62, and then we'll make Hamotzi over the challah. And I'm wondering if maybe we could ask Amaya to come up one last time for that, because you look like you'd enjoy the challah time, right? Okay.
She likes it a challah a lot. It was very, very good. That was a good joke.
You're just trying to get a rise.
All right, you're getting all twisted. All right, Igdal, 62. יגדל אלוהים חי וישתבח, נמצא ונטל מציאותו, אחד ואין יחיד כייחודו, נעלם וגם אין סוף מאחדותו, אין לו דמות הגוף ואינו גוף, לא נערוך אליו קדושתו, קדמון לכל דבר אשר נברא, ראשון בין ראשית לראשיתו, הינו אדון עולם וכל נוצר, יורג גדולתו ומלכותו, שפע נבואתו נתנו אל אנשי סגולתו ותפארתו, לא קם בישראל כמו שעוד נביא ומביט את אמונתו, תורת מנתן לעמואל, על יד נביאו נאמן ביתו, לא יחניף האל ולא ימיר, דתו לעולמים לזולתו, צופה ויודע סתרנו, מבין לסוף דבר בקדמתו, גומל לאיש חסד כמפעלו, נותן לרשע רע כרישתו, ישלח לקץ ימין משיחנו, לבדות בך כקץ ישועתו, מתים יחייל ורוב חסדו, ברוך עדי עד שם תהילתו, מתים יחייל ורוב חסדו, ברוך עדי עד שם תהילתו. Amen. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat, Shabbat